From my own understanding of horror, the genre works to make something familiar, safe, or even loved seem threatening. A good example of this would be that of haunted houses, which I already tackled in a previous video. Houses, after all, are things we associate with safety and comfort, and the word home often refers to a state of mind where one has nothing to fear or worry about. When a house becomes haunted, this means that the house has already been compromised and is no longer safe, being either infested with malevolent spirits or monsters, be they supernatural or real-life dangers. Hi, hello, and welcome again everybody to another episode of Natural Juan. This time around we're going to discuss some of the works of horror manga sensation Junji Ito. But before all that, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications if you would like to see more content like this. Also, before all else, I'd like to make a quick shout out to Jonathan Green, my patron in Patreon. If you would also like to support my work here, you can find my Patreon information in the description below along with a PayPal account in case you'd just like to make a quick donation. With all that out of the way, it's time to get started and get scared. For a little background information, Junji Ito is a horror manga artist who is famous, or rather infamous, for his disturbing works like Tomie, Uzumaki, and Hellstar Remina, which I already discussed in a previous video. Born in July 31, 1963, Junji Ito got his start as a dentist's assistant and was quite skilled at drawing realistic depictions of human body parts and internal organs. Later on, he would try his hand at writing shoujo, or girls genre manga, but later on made a name for himself as the horror manga artist we all know and love. As mentioned, Junji Ito's talent for drawing realistic body parts is what lends so much horror to his work. Given the usually cute art style of Japanese manga, Junji Ito's lifelike drawings of teeth and guts make his work truly jarring. His work gets scarier when you see how he can easily transform mundane things like dolls, houses, and otherwise ordinary people into mysterious beings to outright horrific monsters. As I've said, this is the true essence of horror because all bets are off when objects or people who we consider safe become a source of terror. Consider for instance that in the real world, a home invasion is considered one of the most serious crimes one can commit because it violates the safety and sanctity of the home. So now I'll be discussing 3 of Junji Ito's many works that have scared me to my core. Take note that being a huge horror fan, I am usually unfazed by most people's definition of horror. When I discovered this guy and his artworks, I was literally blown away and sucked into a spiral of fear and foreboding. First, I'll discuss the ever-popular Enigma at Amigara Fault. The story centers around a young man who, after a massive earthquake hits Japan, travels to a mountain that has been devastated by said earthquake. It is then shown that the collapsed part of the mountain harbors countless human-shaped holes inside it. It is soon revealed that there is an obsessive or hypnotic effect coming from these holes that attract people to them, including the young man we're following. This hypnotic effect is so strong that, when people look at said holes, they feel the need to enter them at all cost. To quote one anonymous character, "This hole was made for me!" This is said shortly before the character removes all his clothes and goes right into the hole that seems to be tailor-made for him and disappears, never to be seen again. It is then shown that each hole is unique, and it does indeed prompt some people to claim that the holes seem to be shaped to individual people's physiques. No two are alike, and it seems that each hole is made for a different person. This affects the protagonist as he remains within the vicinity of the said holes. He is plagued by nightmares wherein he is part of an ancient tribe in Japan who makes a terrible transgression. His sentence is to be placed into a hole cut into the side of the mountain. In another nightmare, he dreams of the people who have already gone into the holes and, after another big earthquake, are trapped inside the tunnels that the holes lead into. Finally, after an important female character enters the hole that seems to be made for her, the protagonist finds it in himself to look for his own hole and enter it. Much like the others, it seems as if we, the readers, will never see him again, at least until the ending when rescue workers catch sight of a strange creature that might not even be human anymore. Next up is the story titled The Thing That Drifted Ashore. This short manga starts out similar to Enigma at Amigara Fault, with our protagonist finding himself at a beach. Strangely though, this protagonist has a strong fear of the sea and its creatures. He often mentions that he has nightmares wherein he finds himself sinking deeper and deeper into the ocean, and sees that the surrounding sea creatures become more and more grotesque as he descends. He reminds me of American horror writer H.P. Lovecraft, who also suffers from this fear of deep-sea creatures, a trait which, I must admit, I too share. It turns out that a large aquatic animal has washed up on the shores of the beach, and a large crowd of people has gathered there to look at it, the protagonist included among them. It is unclear just what kind of sea creature the monster found at the beach is, as it doesn't resemble anything natural. It is noted to have a grotesque head and a very long serpentine body that would dwarf a whale. Soon, our protagonist meets a pretty young woman who tells him that she also shares a fear of the deep ocean and its denizens. She also tells him that she lost her fiancé when a ferry sank in the same waters and has not heard any news about him or any of the survivors. The protagonist and the woman he met stay for a while as local authorities discuss what should be done about the vast animal. Just then, the belly of the monster splits open and people, emaciated, filthy, deformed, and stark raving mad, come flooding out. After taking a closer look at the malnourished madmen, the woman with the protagonist manages to identify one of the people inside the monster as her fiancé. It is soon discovered that all of the people that came from within the creature were the passengers of the ferry that sank so many years ago. They had somehow managed to survive as parasites within the enormous monster as it traversed the great depths of the ocean. Since the creature possessed bioluminescence, or natural light, and its skin was transparent, it makes one wonder what else the survivors saw to drive them completely insane. Third and last would be the story The Window Next Door, a seemingly more mundane story, at least at first. It also deals with a certain stigma or issue of male victims and female perpetrators. The story starts out simple enough with a young man preparing to sleep in his room on the second floor of a house his parents have recently acquired. All is well at first, and the young man feels like life is good in their new home when he hears a creepy voice from his window. He peeks through it and sees that a grotesque woman is calling him through the window. At first, he ignores this and goes on with his life. He thinks perhaps that the grotesque woman he saw at the window might just be a part of a dream. However, things take a turn for the worst when the woman tries to get closer to the young man's window using a long pole. Luckily, the protagonist is able to throw away the woman's pole, preventing her from approaching his window at night. After asking around the next day, they learn that the house next door is supposed to be empty and has been for many years. Then, by the end, they learn that the woman in the other house is not just a dream, and that something impossible and grotesque has happened, and the protagonist and his family may just have to find a new place of residence to be safe. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Natural Juan. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. Also, if you want to support my efforts, my Patreon is included in the description below along with a PayPal account in case you want to make a quick or small donation. See you all in the next video.